Yeah, welcome back to my class again today. In the last class, we did method overloading. Now, in this class, we want to look at another concept again, which is what? Dynamic binding and doc typing. So after these two classes, then we can now go to abstraction and encapsulation, which are the other two principles in object-oriented programming. So today we want to look at dynamic binding. What is dynamic binding and what is doc typing? Dynamic binding is a process that is a concept that helps you to understand the resolution of a method based on the type of the object. While doc typing is based on calling an object if it is available in the class, right? So today in this class, we are going to look at dynamic binding. And it's like saying that you are giving a position to somebody because it is their turn, right? That is dynamic binding. While doc typing is like saying that you are giving a position to somebody because it's qualified, not because it is their turn, right? That is just the difference. So that is what we want to look at today, which is what? Dynamic binding. So we are looking at dynamic binding, right? Okay. So Python actually resolves method calling at runtime, not at compile time. So we are going to look at this. Let's say we create a class, right? We create a class at, right? Let me just use lowercase. We create a class at, right? And then inside this class, we say, we define a method, def, I will call it load. And then in this, we say self, and then we close this. Then we say print, right? Symbol of salvation, right? Then we create another class. We now create a child class, Israel, right? And then the parent class will be earth, right? And then inside it, we'll define this method again, blood, and then self, and here we'll go in and we'll say print do not enter the house, right? And then we come here again, we create another class, and we'll call it Egypt, right? And then it's also a child class of earth. And then we define the method again, blood, self. In this one, you go in and you say salvation is for all, right? And then we'll close it. Okay, so we have created three classes. The first class is earth, which is the parent class. And then we have, inside this parent class, we have blood. as a method, and then that is instance method. And then when you go into this blood, what you have to print out is symbol of salvation. Then you have class Israel, which is the child class of Earth. And then you say define, inside it you also have a method, blood, which is an instance method. Inside it you go in and say do not enter the house. Then you have another class, Egypt, which is also the child class of Earth. And inside it, you have this blood method defined. And inside this blood method, you are saying salvation is for all. Now, we are going to instantiate these classes, right? And then we are going to call we are going to call the method blood. Now, dynamic binding. Which of the blood will be called will be determined by which of the class was instantiated, right? So if I come here now and I say earth, then I say let's call it object. I call it object, and then I now say earth, right? Since there is no init method, so I'm going to call the default constructor. So it's just going to be like this. Now, this is what we have. We have instantiated earth, right? Now, if I now say object dot blood, which of this method is Python going to call? So based on this, because this earth was instantiated, that is this object that we created was created for earth. When we are now calling blood, it's going to print out this one, symbol of salvation. So that is what we say dynamic binding. That is, whatever the method that will be called will be determined by what the type of that method is. So the type of this object is earth. That is the type of this object. So when you are calling the method blood, even though you have blood in these three classes, how would the system know which of the blood to execute will be determined by what? By what the type of the class is. Now, I can do this instead of this, right? In order for me to print out these three, instead of saying I will create this object and then instantiate the class one by one, I can just come here and say I can create a variable, a list variable. So I can create a list variable. I will say location. I will create a variable locations, right? Now, inside it, I'll supply a list to it. Now, this earth method, earth, then Israel, right? Then Egypt, right? So then I can close this. Now, having done this is a variable that I've created. Now, I want to iterate these three at once. So what am I going to do? I will use my for loop. Now, I don't know if you are still seeing this place. So instead of here, it should be here. So this is what I will do. I'll just simply come here. All right. So from here, I'll just come here. I'll use a for loop. I'll now say for, right? Then I will create a temporary, so location in, right? Locations. Call, now say location dot blood. Now, when I execute this script, so what I have done is, instead of me instantiating the class one by one and then calling them, so I just create a variable, locations, and then I create a list data structure where I'm having this earth class, this Israel class, and then this Egypt class inside them. Then I'm going to use my for loop to iterate the three of them. So the first thing I'll do is I'll come to this one that is location in locations. So inside these locations, I have earth. So I will copy this earth into this location. Then I will go in. So this, what will now be here is, meaning this object has been created for the earth class. So I'm now using that object what to call the blood. So this one will print out this. Then I will go in again and I will call this Israel class. So it means that I've created this location object, right, for this Israel class. Then I'm using that object to call the blood. So it's going to call this blood, this one. So it's going to print out, do not enter the house. Then I will go in again into this location and I will call this Egypt into this location. Then I will go in. So it means that this location is the object that I've created for Egypt. So I'm going to use it now to call the blood. So this one is going to print out salvation is for all. So if I run this script based with this my for loop, I'm going to print out symbol for salvation, do not enter the house, and then salvation is for all. So what I have shown you now using this dynamic binding is to tell you it is at runtime that Python will determine which of the method is going to call based on the type of the object. So if the type is earth, right, it's going to print out this. If the type is Israel, it's going to print out this. If the type is Egypt, it's going to print out this. So that is how Python does the method resolution. So the method resolution is done at runtime based on the type. So let's go to PyCharm and let me demonstrate this for you. And then in the next class, I'm going to show you doc typing, where you are going to give the person the job, not based on where he's from, but rather based on his capability to do the job, right? So let's go to PyCharm. Okay, so this is our PyCharm. We're just going to create new and we'll call this dynamic binding.py. So, okay, so we'll create class earth, right? And then we'll go in and we'll define blood. And then inside it, we'll say print um, this is the symbol of salvation. And then we'll create another class, Israel. No, this one is the child class of earth, right? And then we'll define blood and say print do not enter the house, right? And then we'll create another class, Egypt, right? And then it's also a child class of earth. Then another method, blood. Here we'll print salvation is for all, right? Now we've created the classes. So let's create, like we did, location, a variable, and in this variable we will assign a list data structure. So in it we have earth, Israel, Egypt, and then we will now come here and use for loop to iterate all of them. So we are creating an object. So for location, so this location is now the object that we are going to create for each of them. So for location in locations, right, go in and then use location to access the blood function. All right, so this is it. Now, so what this will do is we created a variable locations, and then we are assigning these three classes, which is Earth, Israel, and Egypt, to it. Now we are using a for loop to iterate them. So this location is standing as the object that is created for each of them. So if location is created for Earth, it means that when you try to use it to access blood, it's going to print out this is the symbol of salvation. When you now call Israel, it means you are creating location for Israel class. So you are using this location to instantiate as what you are using to instantiate this Israel class. So you are now using it, that object, to call blood function. So the method that is going to print out will be that of what? Israel. Do not enter the house. So if I execute this program, it's going to show me first one, this is the symbol of salvation. Second one, do not enter the house. Third one, salvation is for all. That is what it's going to show me. So the method that will be called will be resolved based on the type of what? Of the object. So the type of this object for the first one is Earth. The type of this object for the second one is Israel. The type of this object for the third one is Egypt. So when I execute this, it's going to give me, this is the symbol of salvation. Do not enter the house. Salvation is for all. Right? So that is what it means. Now, what I was saying is that if I don't want to do this, if I remove this and I say location, right? That is an object. Then I'm instantiating for Earth. This, what I just did is the same thing as doing this. Then I can now say location, right? Use it to call blood method. So which of the method is it going to print now? It's going to print, this is the symbol of salvation. So when I do that, see, this is the symbol of salvation. Now, if I change this one to Israel, what is it going to print? It's going to print, do not enter the house. See, do not enter the house. If I change this one to Egypt, and then I use it, so meaning I'm instantiating this one. So that is how Python does the resolution. Is at runtime. That is what you mean by dynamic binding. It's at runtime, right? That is why Python is a dynamic programming language. So it's at runtime. Now this one is going to print out salvation is for all. So that is the salvation is for all. So the first time that I used that list structure was to iterate the three of them at the same time without doing it one by one like this. That's just different. So that is what I want to show you in this class. In the next class, we are going to do doc typing. So till we see you in the next class. Bye-bye.